I'm Boyd Summerhays, and I'm Tony Finau's golf coach. This is what his swing used to look like. Right here, you'll see the biggest difference once we look at different swings, but there's that high right arm. If I put an alignment stick on his forearms, they're going to be pointing
pretty far left.
Pretty far left,
yeah.
Okay? So he goes back, comes to the top here, face is kind of open, and it almost opens up a little bit more.
Yeah, as I come down.
Yep. And then because of the open face, he squared it up with a lot of leftward path, down and left.
Yep.
Okay. So we're
really
looking at just the shaft and the direction of the path. So he's swinging really, really hard left. I never thought I was going to be a golf coach. I always thought I was going to be a player and can have a great career on the PGA Tour.
I mean, you were such a stud.
I was good growing up. And got on the tour but didn't have success. I made a lot of mistakes as a player, but looking back, I'm like, wow, that helped me become, a well-rounded coach. Had a lot of different perspectives from different coaches. Some I took, some I didn't like from certain coaches, but I took the good in those coaches and kind of put them into what I was doing. But also, I think just the playing background. That's one thing that Tony asked me on the phone. He said, hey, are you done playing?
Yeah.
And I was done. And I told him, I didn't make a long explanation. I said, yeah, I'm done. And he trusted that I was done because he didn't want to work with somebody that was still trying to get back out on tour. And, the rest is history. And when he's talked about what I saw in him, I already knew he was winning a lot of mini tour events.
Yeah.
I mean, you were playing great, but I thought with the changes that we could make, that's when I told him really early on, I said, you can be a top 10 player in the world, and anybody, in my opinion, that can get to top 10 in the world can be number one in the world.
Yeah, he's always said that. He had that belief in me. I think that was a huge part, was that he saw something in me, maybe that I hadn't heard from someone in a long time, and so I was ready to take that journey with him. Now, here we are, almost 10 years later, we've seen come to fruition. I grew up hitting a hook, a draw. I think just like any kid, you want to hit it as far as you can, and we all thought that everybody that hits it far hooks it. So we aim right and swing away. At this point in my game, in my career, I was only hitting left to right shots, and so that pattern pretty much you can only pretty much hit the ball left to right with that type of pattern, open face and hitting down and across it. The ball's going to come back to the right.
And then one thing that's really different now too is just the footwork. Yeah. You don't have the right heel off the ground on your irons. Yeah. You stay pretty planted. You had, like you said, you hit it so far as a kid. You recorded the highest ball speed to the point on the PGA Tour when you played as a 17-year-old, right?
Like 198 or 199 or something,
To get more accurate, we changed the setup, so it changed the path and the club face a little bit, changed your right-hand grip, which pretty much was the start of getting that right arm underneath, changing the path, and then the footwork. Because you were so powerful, you didn't need to use the ground like most people. The more you came off that right heel, the more you kind of came out of your shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Where were you here? Was this in Sweden?
This is in Sweden, 2007, It's great. I think I was 17 years old here.
All right, so this is that big draw you were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Still kind of a higher right arm, really
long and across.
High, long and across, full swing, and then just a really hard attack through the hit. You can tell standing up a little bit and really getting it, but
you can kind of see how your arms work away from
and then he just turns into timing. It just turns into timing at that point. But that's a great recipe to hit it far, not to hit it straight, but it was a great recipe to hit it far. And I do think it's important to learn how to hit it far when you're a kid. And that's definitely something that I did.
First off, before you start working on in-swing adjustments, you got to look at the things that happened before, so the setup. So if we look at where his setup is today, you can see right here, his right arm is under the left. Okay, the right hand grip worked under the club. You change that. I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't think anybody should start working on in-swing stuff until the setup is fixed, and then you go from there and just see what happens. So if you can imagine, he went from his right arm being way on top of the left, the shoulders way left, he had a more open face. Everything's wanting the path to go left, and then because the path was so far left, because the angle of attack was so down, the face had to be quite a bit open to get it to curve back. So here, you look at the comparison of the setup, that's the first part. So even though you're a cutter, the right arm's underneath the left. I'm a big fan of that. So you look at coming down compared to that first swing we looked at.
Yeah.
The shaft is on the right forearm coming down instead of closer to the left forearm.
Like you said, the feet more planted.
Yep.
And then just a more, you can tell, just a more passive start line, passive release.
Yeah.
Instead of that aggressive kind of right arm through the hit.
Right. So once you got that right hand
I think
under.
This is like 2018
yeah, this is a little,
or 19, yeah.
Looks like that's at Albany.
4 years,
right
that's a big change.
That's the Bahamas right
that's,
there.
No, that's the shootout. That's the
God,
QB.
you never forget anything. When it comes to golf memory, you're incredible.
Well,
Other things, you know,
QB, yeah.
You forgot your shoes at the PGA Championship and calmly called Elena, hey, do you mind bringing my golf shoes?
Well,
and took a top 10.
My wife knows, pretty much outside of golf, I don't remember much. But
yeah, exactly. So if you look at the club face at the top, how much different is that? So when your right hand got under,
you can
it changed the club face position.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's important. You know, setup is, I think a key component to changing a lot of things. You know, just from the way you set up is probably the way you're going to swing the club. The famous par 3 contest, my famous hole-in-one, not for all the right reasons. It was a great hole-in-one, but I ended up pretty much dislocating my ankle. And so my chances of playing, I thought, were pretty slim. I ended
really
up,
slim?
Yeah, very slim. I ended up, deciding with my team the next morning that we're going to do this. So I got to the range a few hours early, and I had my chiropractor work on my foot. And then I told Boyd, I said, hey, let's get out to this range early and let's try and muster something together here. I'm playing. So these are the first swings on the range in 2018. As I mentioned to Boyd, I said, look, you've got your work cut out for you here. I can't put much weight into my left foot. So, what are some of the things I can do in my setup to kind of make up for that? And the whole week I pretty much hit the ball off my right foot and opened up. And he also said, look, to take pressure off your left foot, open up your left toe. So I did that as well, and that helped release some of the pressure from my left foot.
I think an interesting insight about the Masters when you hurt your ankle too is obviously we're all kind of a little bit in shock as a whole team, and I know your agent Chris Armstrong was working around the clock trying to get you in to get an MRI because you needed to know whether you're going to do long-term damage, and you had an afternoon tee time on Thursday.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't have had an afternoon tee time on Thursday, you wouldn't have played because your MRI came back on Thursday morning. So just like Tony said, he didn't know whether he was going to play or not. He's a very optimistic person, was hoping to do it, but once he knew the MRI came back with no long-term damage, literally said, hey, let's get the range early and let's create something. But in my mind, I was already trying to figure out if he did play what we would do. So one thing that Tony has always had a decent amount of is forward shaft lean at impact. So that made it possible. If he didn't have a lot of forward shaft lean, I don't know if you could have done it, okay? So you could look at this swing. Basically, it looks like 70% of your weight is already on your right side. You're not going to be able to put much pressure on that left foot.
Right.
And if you look at the swing, right before he takes it back, even more weight. You're 85% pretty much on that right side. And there's very minimal weight compared to what you were used to getting the left side.
Yeah, but like you said, because I do have the shaft lean, I have no problem with shaft lean. I'm still able to get the back of the ball with no problem, even with my weight back, because I do lean my shaft forward pretty aggressively. So you can still see here, I make nice contact. This is a 3-wood, and I make nice contact through the hit. But you can definitely tell I can't turn my
right
weight.
There. Look at how much weight is on the right toe
Yeah.
at the end of this swing, just trying to
Yep.
keep that pressure off that left
Yeah,
foot.
and I remember it still hurt. Like when
Oh.
even with the very limited weight I could put on it, it was still hurting with each swing. But I was happy on the range at that time that I was like, yeah, I think I can do this. I think I can play like this. And once I committed to play, I knew, hopefully it was going to be for 72 holes, but whether it was going to be for 36 or 72, I was going to finish and play, and that's how I've always been. Try to just tough it out, and I'm happy I did that week. That was quite a week to have. Yeah.
Definitely, it's a little shorter swing, and that happened in time. I get a lot of requests I used to get emails where it says, man, I really love Tony's swing. I want to tighten it up, make it more compact. And I'm like, this guy went from 208 ball speed, the capability of that, to where he needed to hit more fairways. So we didn't purposely shorten this swing. It was more that you knew that you need to get the ball more in play, and it instinctively
100%.
just shortened up, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's not something that you suggested. That's not something that I wanted. It was just something that happened because we were working on a shot. I remember throughout an off season, yeah, I think that's important to talk about. In 2000, our rookie year, after playing, Boyd was like, you got to hit the ball straighter. You got to hit more fairways, or you're not gonna be able to compete, out here for very long. And I'm like, yeah, I know. So let's figure this thing out.
We were having to hit too many 3-woods.
I was hitting
a lot of 3-woods.
I was laying back too far, and I noticed a lot of the top guys, they were hitting it so straight. They were hitting driver. Yeah. So not only they were putting it in play more than I was, they were hitting it 30 yards further than I up the fairway from where I was. So we knew one club that I needed to get better at was hitting the driver. So we hit a bunch of lower left to right shots, in play type shots, and that helped tremendously. But what the result of that was just a little shorter backswing. And again, it wasn't something that Boyd taught me, but it was just something that happened because of the shot we were trying to hit.
Yeah, so you look right here, compared to before, much shorter.
Yeah.
And way more neutral coming down, more shallow. And then like we talked about, footwork. You don't like to come off that right heel because remember when I showed that first one, both arms pretty much look extended to impact straight. The more your right heel came off, the more you kind of humped it a little bit, pulled away, and your arms had to extend to get to the ball. So you look at that impact compared to before, and the
lower
path.
Body, and the path.
And then the biggest thing is the angle of attack. You pretty much hit level now.
Yeah, I'm not hitting down on anymore,
So now you hit what degree of driver now?
I'm like 9.5.
Yeah, 9.5. Yeah. So, and you spin it way less than before at that. So that was the biggest thing. When we started working together, you could see that it was curving too much. So there's a lot of courses where if he had trouble on the left side, he would literally try to hit a draw, which still faded 10 yards.
Yeah.
The
draw instead of curving 35 yards.
And once and the thing about Tony, we all know he's an incredible athlete. And to that, I give him a ton of credit. He was not afraid to make these changes. He had to play better immediately, and most guys will resist some big changes. To change a tour player's grip, that significantly is, there's some risk in that. But you've always been like that. To get better, you've been willing to take some risks, right? So to me, the driver went from, I think, the biggest liability in your bag to your greatest strength.
Yeah.
When I had a chance to work with Tony, he could have worked with other guys. That's why early on, I was like, man, I can see the long-term vision. I've always been a pretty visual guy, and Tony was the first guy I'd worked with that I truly believed that could become #1 in the world. And so, to me, I think players make coaches look good. It's not the other way around. There are no tour coaches without tour players, and I've never forgotten that because I've been on both sides of it. And so, to me, that's why it always worked, is that mutual respect that I knew that he was the talent. I'm trying to just facilitate, get him on the right path. And like he said, at the beginning, there was definitely more me giving you the knowledge to make the changes. I was more active for sure. As he kept getting better and better, that role gets less and less, right? Because it's hard, there's less to work on, right? And it's more managing it, maintaining it, little improvements here and there. But the relationship between me, the coach, and Tony, the reason why it worked is because Tony was the best athlete I've ever worked for, and he was already getting great results with what I felt like, and he knew a little bit of a technique that was, I wouldn't say homemade a little bit. It was a little
no doubt.
It was just athleticism. He was just going from a big high hook
to
just hitting cuts, and I will say that. You did come with a pattern. That's why you were winning on the main tours. You just did the same shot every time.
Pattern. Yeah, that's right.
But once you made those changes, and we were able to make those changes because of how athletic you were.
Yeah. Thank you, Boyd. I would say it's worked just because I think, as Boyd mentioned, I think just the trust that I have in him, that he's looking out for my best interest. He's always, I love the way that he's coached in that he doesn't have one philosophy. Not everybody has to swing like this. I have a certain pattern, and when we learned that, he's been so knowledgeable in just trying to, how do we become the best at this pattern, at what you're doing? How do we make everything revolve around this specific thing? But I trust him in not only in my swing, but just in things that he tells me. I think we're honest with each other. It's a relationship. It's kind of crazy, right? We're talking almost like it's not even golf, right? But that's how it's been for us. It's like a relationship thing, and I trust him on a personal level, on my professional level, and so having someone like that on my team has been a lot more than just swing changes. And so, and I never would have thought that it was going to flourish into this. I was looking for a swing coach, right? I was looking, but you know what? I think what we've got in return is great family relationships, great personal relationship. You know, I've got a great friendship. So I think I've gotten a lot more in return than I bargained for. I was looking for a swing coach, and I've got a great mentor and a great friend.